Hello, and welcome to Truth is Live Talk. Here, we promise to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth. I'm your host, LaDawn Elliott, and my mission is to reveal truth so that others are inspired and empowered to share and live in their truth. Today on Truth is Live Talk, we will be discussing awakening and harnessing the power of the divine feminine. I've invited the executive visionary and senior herbal steamologist, Ajay Wura, to help us uncover the truth on this topic. But before we jump in, let me share a little information about Ajay. Ajay Wura is a certified inner spirit, health and wellness lifestyle soul coach, certified holistic womb Sana Reiki 2 practitioner, certified motivational and inspirational spirit speaker, womanpreneur, founder and executive visionary of the Sweet Spot Vitox Boutique in Atlanta, Heal Space Atlanta Community Gallery, the Blissful Pleasures Company, and the Let's Make Up Mind and Body Soul Lifestyle series. Ajay is a community activist that is passionate about the health and well-being of her people, exercising her cultural, communal love through holistic, healthy healing and wealthy wellness. Well, hello, Ajay. How are you doing this evening?
I am well. Greetings to everyone.
Thank you for joining me here on Truth is Live Talk. This time of the year is a time that most people press the reset button by making New Year's resolutions and creating vision boards. Unfortunately, you and I both know most people are unable to achieve their goals because they take the old stress, the old trauma, the old worry, the old poor health, etc., into the new year. So I felt that it was critical for us to have this conversation tonight to help women especially understand the impact that normalizing stress, holding on to trauma and grief, believing that they have to be everything to everybody. I want them to understand the impact that that has on their mental, emotional, physical, and spiritual health. So you, Miss Ajay, are the perfect person to lead this discussion because you guide women on their path to their individual healing and reconnecting to their divine feminine. So I'm so glad that you agreed to be with us this afternoon or this evening, because I know we will benefit from your expertise as you walk us through this topic tonight. So I know that the truth you share on Truth is Live Talk will be invaluable. So are you ready to get started?
I am.
Okay. So, okay, great. But before we begin, I want to pause and take a moment to thank all of the truth seekers for tuning in tonight. Please feel free to like and share the live feed and share your thoughts in the comments. Again, I think this is a very important topic. It will help you set the tone for 2022 and help you understand how you can overcome some things to help you become who you desire to be. So if you know a woman, especially a woman of color, that would benefit from this discussion this evening, please text, tag, share, do whatever you need to make sure that they're a part of this conversation. So Ajay, I shared with my audience a couple of weeks ago that I've been intentional about trying to reconnect to my divine feminine because I became keenly aware that I was out of balance. I had so much masculine energy floating through me. That doesn't mean I was being manly, but I just had a lot of masculine energy floating through me. And I knew that it was too much, it was taking over. So I had to make room to do a lot of self-care, to allow myself to take breaks, to just kind of ask for help. So I said that because I wanted to make sure as we move into it, we're defining and clarifying things. So the first thing I want to talk about is feminine and masculine energy. So what is masculine energy and how does it show up?
In my journey, my life experience, being raised and reared by very strong women created a very masculine side of me. Me- Meaning not understanding my grace, not understanding my divine femininity, not being soft enough or holding sacred space for myself, feeling like I had to be perfect in all things, feeling like there were no such thing as failure, not giving myself
good.
Not giving myself time to relax for reflection and self-assessment and growth, but being constantly pulled into my routine of what the world had showed me what a woman is, or what a woman's supposed to be, or what a woman does, or how a woman shows up. That independent woman type of feeling. And I think that came, and like I'm saying, from my own experience, I had a lot of strong women around me in my childhood. I seen women do everything. I didn't see a lot of masculine energy because we didn't have a lot of masculine role models in my family dynamic. So therefore, I seen women at the forefront of everything. Cooking, cleaning, working, taking care of the children, making sure everybody got to where they needed to get to, making sure everybody's needs were met. That's what I saw. My mother, my grandmother, my aunties, my cousins, that's what I saw. The men in my family, like I said, by me not being raised with my father in the household, my mother married after then, but that masculine energy was a very different masculine energy because he wasn't our father. He didn't really show up as that strong masculine energy to show me that example. Didn't want to step on anybody's toes. These are not my children. He was more of a person who took care of us. In the house, roof over the head, anything I asked him for, he gave me. But far as showing as the man in my life, my mom was that in our household. She took care of everything still, even though a man was in the household. So I think we see it so strength, and we don't know how to recline back and pour into ourselves. So because we're so much pouring outwardly, giving, taking care of, that kind of thing. That's what masculine energy shows up to me in my family dynamic and other women that I come in contact with. I see that type of behavior and those types of patterns, as well as that type of mindset.
And I get that. I really get that. And that's exactly what I meant, because I come from a family of strong women where they did it all. Not that we didn't have male masculine energy for me to have. It was modeled for me, but more often than not, as you said, the women were the super women of the family. And that's how it was showing up for me. And it was quite overbearing. So typically when people think about masculine energy, all those things you said, and it manifests itself in very different ways. People typically think about masculine energy being strong and protective, and feminine energy being soft and nurturing. So you talked about how masculine energy showed up for you based on your models. Was there any feminine energy that you can identify when you think of feminine characteristics that showed up for you?
The femininity that I saw was probably fashion, makeup, dressing up, talking femininely. But far as sacred femininity, I didn't see that.
Oh, wow.
I see that and know that because it's what I sought out. Once I saw the imbalance, once my spirit brought to me, like as with you said when we conversated, your spirit calls you higher to let you know something is out of balance. You cannot continue this way. Regardless of how you've been reared, regardless of how you've been raised, regardless of what you saw, regardless of how you've been going about your life, you cannot do it anymore.
Yeah, it takes a toll.
Right. That's when I feel like at different times in a woman's life, she gets spiritually arrested. That's what
That's
I call
good.
it's
That's
when your
good.
spirit arrests you. No one comes in and puts your hand behind your back, but your spirit comes in to let you know that it's time to surrender.
Okay.
Hands up. I
I
need you
get
to
that.
fall back from everything that you've been doing, everything that you think you know, each way that you've been taught to do it. I need you to deprogram and reprogram.
I'm so glad you
And that's
said.
when I began my spiritual high.
Okay. I'm so glad you said that, because people often give examples of your body telling you you need to sit down when it comes to illnesses, like physical illnesses that people go through, but your spirit will arrest you in the same way. So I'm so glad that you said that, because those things happen to us, but we quickly try to push them away because it takes us out of the crazy. I like to say that we normalize, so to speak, in trying to live. So I'm so
Yeah.
glad that you said that. Yeah. So I want to say hello to
Yeah.
Marilyn. Thank you for joining. Bridget, thank you for joining. Jamita, yes, I am so glad that I was moved to do this topic, and I'm glad you are appreciative of us speaking of it tonight. And Ms. Barbara as well, thank you for joining us tonight. And there's several others. Anne, I see Anne, and I also see Vernita. I appreciate you guys joining us. And we're going to go ahead and continue the conversation. So we talked about what feminine energy looks like. We talked about what masculine energy looks like. All humans possess both. Could you tell us why it's important for us to have a balance? Why is a balance needed?
Well, I believe from my version of understanding that if you don't balance, you will destruct. You will self-destruct.
Okay.
That's number one. And I think as women, we know when we're falling. We know when we're falling from grace.
Okay.
We know we're starting to be more vulnerable than usual. We know when, the trauma is starting to be too much. The stress is starting to be too much. The anxiety. Some of us start having a depressive feeling.
Okay.
Some are, exhausted, depleted, tired, no energy, no compassion, no passion, no vibrancy. When those things begin to happen, I feel like if we tuned into ourselves, we will begin to know that we're out of balance.
Yes.
When you start becoming snappy and irritated and agitated and very quickly to frustrate. A lot of times in this world, people say you in a bitch mode. For Black women, we've heard it tons of times. Angry Black, attitudinal Black women. No, Black women are tired. That's what you're seeing.
Yes.
They're out of balance is what you're seeing. And when I'm speaking to the divine masculine, I get them to start seeing when that is happening with their divine feminine, with their wife, with their partner. It's something you have to learn how to detect, because a divine woman is not just out of order just because.
Okay.
It's not she raises her hand and just say, I want to be bitchy, or I want to be snappy, or I want to be moody, or she doesn't. A divine woman is very loving. She's very nurturing when she's within her divine self. Now, once she's out of balance or out of her element, she becomes the lower vibrational things. So she has to be aware of that. That's what self-reflection and self-assessment is. And I believe the people around her, if you love her, if you care for her, it is something as a partner or your children should also be able to say, Mom, are you okay? Something hasn't been right with you. Your partner needs to ask these questions as well. But a lot of times we have taught people not to check in on us.
Well, we don't check in on ourselves, Ajay.
That's right. And because we don't check in on ourselves, and because we show the superwoman phenomenon so much, people think we have it all together all the time. And so even if they see these imbalances, oh, my wife been so moody. Oh, my mom, she just, every time you come to her, she's just mean, or she's, she says no to me all the time. She's not as loving as she used to be. They won't say anything about it because they want you to show up as you were.
Yes.
They want you to continue to do what you've been doing. And this is why us as melanated women, we have to come back to ourselves to save ourselves and to hold that sacred space for ourselves when we're becoming undone, imbalanced, if you will.
Okay.
And that takes honesty. It takes trust of yourself. It takes courage. And it takes you allowing yourself to not be perfect, to allow yourself to not do all the things that you've been doing. And a lot of times we don't want to do that because we're in a routine, we're in a program, we're in a psychosis, we're in a set mindset that I always must do what I always have been doing. I can't change because people need me. My kids need me. My partner need me, and so forth and so on.
That you said so many things just in that one particular answer. And what I hope most of the listeners got out of that is that you have to check in with yourself, because we become so accustomed to operating on autopilot. And that autopilot often comes with that lower vibration, the negativity, the feeling bad, the being snappy, the being all of those things. And we chalk that up to just the stresses of life. And yes, it is stress from life, but we have to recognize that we have a level of accountability, right? And we can give ourselves permission to step back. We can give ourselves permission to ask for help. We can give ourselves permission to say, this is too much. And I'm glad you said specifically, I think women in general have been given a bum rap with respect to, we're supposed to be able to take it all. We're supposed to be able to hold up the whole world. But the Black woman in particular, there's no one looking out for her. I remember being a child and looking at Superman and thinking, okay, well, he's flying through the air and rescuing everybody. Who's holding him up? Same thing for the Black woman. Who's holding her up? And we've become, I can't think of a better word, but I hate this term. We've become brainwashed to believe that we are supposed to do it all, take it all. And we have become almost proud of being able to carry the load that is most often too heavy to carry. So I'm glad you mentioned all of those things, because I want women to understand that there's a balance that we have to strike, but there is some accountability that we have to take for ourselves, to take back ourselves, so that we can be healthy mentally, physically, spiritually, all those good things, right? So in that one answer, you kind of move through the day-to-day stresses, the day-to-day activities that women sort of are involved in, but don't take the time to recognize that they are in over their heads a lot of times, and it manifests itself in different ways. So again, one of the things that I was so interested in you about is because you do womb work. You help women to heal from the womb. And the reason that's important to me, because the womb is where life starts. It is where life grows, is where birth comes from. And if that place is not healed, then you can't be healed. So what does the womb and the sacral chakra, you can talk a little bit about that for those in the audience that may not know what that is, but what does the womb and the sacral chakra represent for the woman, and how are they connected?
Well, the womb is the sacral part of a woman. That's why it's called a sacral chakra, because it comes from the original word of sacred. That's where sacral, SACRAL, comes from. And it is our sacred core. Our womb is where our spirit lives.
Yes.
Our womb is where our intuition comes from. That's why women, melanated women, are intuitive. But when we've tapped out, when we're depleted, when we're tired, when we're exhausted, we cannot be intuitive. And that is why we can't hear within. Because the first question that I ask my clients on my intake form, even before they come in to sit down and go through their sacred ceremony, is if your sweet spot could talk, what would she say? And when I'm saying, speaking of your sacred core, your center, your nucleus, like you said, where life started at, right? Because you're the actual go-between and gateway from the sacred world, and you bring life over into the physical world. That's what you do as a womb man. And it doesn't always mean a actual life. You can birth dreams, you can birth goals, you can birth visions. You are a creator. That's why we're the closest thing to the sacred and the divine than any other being on the planet is the Black woman. Now, it has been a lot of work to go against that paradigm, because if we ever acknowledge the power that we have within us, divine feminine power I'm speaking of, this world would be a very, very different place because of our sacredness. And so when we're doing womb work, we have to go back to our origination, because that's where life, like you said, originates from. So the reason why I do womb work when we're talking about healing, you can't talk about healing if you don't talk about healing where all life comes from.
Okay.
You can't heal all these other places and chakras and body parts in mind if you don't start with the original source of where we all came from. And so every woman has a source, which is a womb. Whether she's giving birth or not, she has a sacred center. Your sacral chakra is your sacred center. It is your womb. It is your uterus. It's your fallopian tubes. It's your cervix. It's all of your vaginal. All of that is created in the womb, which is actually the mother earth. Just like we're fertile, the earth is fertile. The soil is fertile. That's why things grow out of the earth, and things also grow out of us. But we have not been taught about that. We have not been taught about how sacred we are, which is why we don't understand our divine feminine powers. So that's why we're working with the womb. It begins to awaken. I am there to hold sacred space for you because I'm on my own sacred journey of acknowledging and accepting who I am in my divine feminine, not who this world sees me as.
Oh my goodness. Okay.
Not who the name on my birth certificate is, but who God created me to be. And when we begin to start tooling the soil to find out and come back to self, knowledge of self, of who we are as a divine feminine, it begins to awaken different things in us that will no longer accept low vibrational things.
Okay. Okay. Again, every time you speak, you say so much. There's so much to dissect in a response. And again, I'm hoping everyone is paying attention. First and foremost, I want women to understand that sacred space is not there to birth life, physical life into the earth. As you said, it births vision. It births ideas. It births what you came here to do. But it's impossible for that place to birth anything that you have in you if it's blocked, if it has negative energy, if it's unhealed, if there's trauma. So I want women to really get that and understand the choices that you make in your life, how you move through your life, meaning by default, maybe because Natasha said, I've had to be a single mother and I had no other choice. And that tends to kind of make you hard because you're the head of the household, especially if you're rearing sons. You're the head of the household. You're making those choices. You're having to have that masculine energy and control. But just by the sheer nature of the lives that we lead, it forces us, or we believe we're forced to make certain choices. But those choices slowly come to a place of deadening your sacral space. And we walk through life like that consistently and constantly, sometimes conscious, but mostly unconscious. And we can't figure out why we can't birth the things that we need to birth, why we can't heal, why we can't have peace, why we can't find happiness, why we can't align with ourselves to be the best mother, sister, mate, to be the best employee. What's easier for us, it seems, is that we can pull the titles of the world. We can be mother, we can be employee, we can be mate, we can be all of those things. But once we peel all those things away and just get down to us, it's almost impossible. Who are you? And it's almost impossible and very scary, I think, for a lot of women to ask that question. So as you talked about that, why it's important for us to acknowledge that womb space and what it holds for us. When it is unhealed, what kind, and I want you to be very specific, mental, physical, emotional, whatever you can think of, what kind of dis-ease can come from holding trauma, stress, all those things in the womb? How does it show up in our regular day-to-day life?
Oh my gosh. Let me count the ways. I think I've seen many different ways within my own self. And now, since I'm in front of so many women, that come from different paradigms than even I have experienced or I've come from, it's a lot of different ways. But the reason why I use wellness as a wellness practitioner and the art of vaginal steaming for healing is because a lot of our traumas are buried in our wombs.
Okay.
A lot of childhood traumas that have never been healed.
Ooh, so say that again. Say that again.
Childhood traumas that have never been healed. We swept them under the rug. We were told not to speak about them. We hold them secret. And when we hold and internalize and suppress anything that has invaded or disturbed or disharmonized our sacredness, it doesn't just go away. It's stored in a place. The place that it is stored is our sacral chakra, which is our womb space. And so it directs your perception of yourself, right?
Oh, gosh.
Your confidence, your self-esteem, low self-esteem, low confidence, people pleasing. Ooh. I'm just off with emotional right now. I ain't got physical yet. These are emotional imbalances, having to be validated, needing to be accepted, needing to be liked, going above and beyond, doing things that you know you should not be doing, but you do them anyway. Those are emotional things of how dis-ease, which is imbalance. All dis-ease is imbalance in the mind, the body, or the soul, because you're not just your mind, you're not just your body, and you're not just your soul. You're all of those things, what makes you whole, which is why we practice holistic well-being.
Okay.
Physically, the way dis-ease shows up: fibroids, ovarian cysts, polyps, PMS, bacterial vaginosis, polycystic ovarian syndrome, heavy bleeding, menopause. This is how, because it's not only wiser women that experience menopause. Menopause comes from hormonal imbalance. I see women in their 30s that have already start being premenopausal.
Oh,
It's
wow.
not about age, it's about hormonal imbalance. As a 50-year-old woman, I have not went through menopause as of yet. I don't intend to go through menopause because I work very diligently every day to keep myself balanced, mind, body, and soul. And when something is trying to invade that balance, I have to go in and stand my ground. This is what we call boundaries. A
Woo.
lot allow people and things to cross boundaries. We have to stop doing that. We have to stop being yes people. We have to start saying no more. No is self-confidence, is
Yes.
self-esteem, is protecting what is within. I can't go with everything. I can't go along with everyone because it's not in my divine alignment to do so. So when I do that, I'm going against self, which is always going to start a disruption in the spirit when you go against self. And so these are the things that we are addressing as we're vaginal steaming. So I tell people vaginal steaming is a very, very minuscule part of what we do at the Sweet Spot. God birthed this vision and assignment in my heart and my soul for women, melanated women, to come together to focus on healing, to focus on trauma, to focus on hurt and pain, not to run from it, not to ignore it, not to avoid it, because that is what brings disease into the body. When you ignore, when you avoid, when you run, you're only running from your sacred self. And you will have to face yourself at some point in time. And we don't want to wait till we get older and things start getting too complicated. We want to do our work diligently and consistently. When things come up in your life, face them, ask for help, get some support, get around some sisters who love you, who are not judgmental, but want to see the best in you. We have to start wanting to see the best in ourselves as well as we want to see the best in each other. That is how disease starts, because we're out of alignment. When I'm talking about alignment, we're out of spiritual and divine alignment with what our womb knows what we're here for.
Yes.
That is when disease shows up.
Okay. It's not often, Ajay, that I sit and listen so attentively, because I'm always poised and ready to ask the next question. But your answers are so thorough and so spot on, and they are so much a part of the work of the healing that I work with women on. You named so many things emotionally that people have not identified as being out of balance. It's showing up as a mental, emotional, or physical form of dis-ease, people pleasing, not having boundaries, overextending yourself, the ovarian cyst. All of these things are more than likely are the result of that imbalance that you are experiencing. And when you go to the doctor, they do their best to treat you for whatever the symptoms are, but they're not really treating the individual. So for you to mention, menopause and perimenopause and all these types of things, you go because you start having these symptoms, but they're very rote in their prescription, do this, do that, and do that. But it's not any work. It's not any mention about doing the inner work. And that's so important in the healing process. So I want to take a moment to thank Verna for tuning in, Barbara Evans, Darnett Pullings, Zena Marie, Keisha, Sharon Doe, Tina Banks, Yolanda Lewis. Thank you guys so much. Dot Mans, So many people are tuning in tonight, and it's a lot of feedback. And Siobhan Johnson Peoples, there are a lot of comments in the comment section. And I'll get to some of those, but yes, you are just dropping so many nuggets that I'm hoping people are tuning into and connecting the dots. For me,
Yes.
I'm clear and understanding, because again, this is part of the work that I do, but I don't think people often connect all the things that you said to having an imbalance, to that superwoman syndrome, to that imposter syndrome, to that need to please, to the fact that I'm bleeding heavily, irregularly. I'm having all of these other stresses in my life based on not facing that trauma. It's very, very good. Very, very good. So as you talked about what male and female energy is, the importance of having a balance, the importance of that womb being healthy, and how you work to help women, to help them guide themselves through that healing process, the sacral chakra. Can you talk about what women can do to awaken, in addition to working with you to have their sacred spaces cleansed and maintain a healthy sacral space? What can women do to awaken and connect to their divine feminine energy? What can I actually take charge and take accountability for to do on my own to start this process?
Of course. And it's gonna be so simple. I know everybody waiting for the bomb, but there is no bomb. The only thing that it is being aware and awakened to your own needs. Women are not aware of their own needs. What is it that you need exactly? Because when we go to the doctor, they just do a diagnosis of what you said was ailing you. They ask you, what's going on with you? And you start saying, I'm having headaches, I'm having migraines, I'm bleeding heavy, my back is starting to hurt me, my sciatic nerve, my stomach, my gut. You really are self-diagnosing. We just have handed over the power to someone else, thinking that someone else knows better about us than we know about ourselves.
Yes.
Very key, because that has everything to do with divine feminine power. Nobody knows more about you or about what you need than you do. Nobody. Not your mama, not your husband, not your children, not your best friend, not your pastor. You know what you need. Now, I'll tell you a secret that I had to acknowledge when I began my healing journey. Because when somebody would have said that to me, I'm like, of course I know what I need. Okay, yeah. Well, why are you not fulfilling your needs? Why are you needy? Why do you need anyone outside of yourself? And then I began to ask myself that question. What is it that I need? Why is it that I'm telling my husband he's not telling me this and he's not doing that and this and that? But what it really came down to, when I was accountable and responsible of my own health and well-being, is that I am the one that should service me first. Because
say that again. Say that again.
One, this is self-accountability now. And I know as women, this is not something we were taught. It's not. That's why we don't do it. But we have to practice acknowledging what our needs is. What is it that I need to do to take care of me? Before I start assigning something to everybody else outside of me, what is it that I need to be doing?
That's why do you think, I'm sorry to interrupt, but why do you think it's so difficult for women to articulate what they need?
Because we have been reared and raised to be aware of other people's needs.
Okay.
Before we are aware of our own needs, meaning putting other things first, prioritizing other people's needs before we prioritize ours. And we're very good at it. We're so good at it, we begin to master it.
Oh,
our children's needs, our partner's needs, the church's needs, my job's needs, all of these outer needs come first before my needs. That's what brings the imbalance into the mind, the body, and the soul, because your soul and your mind and your body is here to serve you. Now, if and when I can do for others, I will, I can, within balance though.
Okay. I'm sorry to interrupt you again, because I want them to hear what you just said. If and when I can do with for others. So again, your cup has to be not only full, but there should be excess. And what the excess is what you decide to share with others. So if and when I can do. So we're often working from a space of depletion because we are so focused on taking care of everyone else's needs that by the time it is time for us to take care of our needs, we don't have the energy. We often feel guilty for even thinking about taking care of our needs because, again, as you said, we're not programmed to do that. I'll just read some of the comments. So Sharon Doe says, sometimes we are too consumed with making those around us happy and content instead of healing ourselves first because we are natural nurturers and givers. Tina made the comment, validation. Dawnette said, it's okay for us to set boundaries. No is a sentence. It's a complete sentence, and you get to choose a full sentence. Bridget said, and she's gone back to your the physical issues you were describing that manifest through disease. Often we're taking medication to numb us instead of working on the inner healing. And again, going to the doctor, self-diagnosing, they'll be happy to give you something. Oh, you have depression, like Yolanda said, you have depression, you have anxiety and fatigue, you have digestive problems. Yeah, we'll give you something for it because it's easier to medicate than to heal.
Because it requires work. It's continuous work. It's not microwavable. It's not pop a pill. It's not pacifying. It's not only on the surface. It's going deep down. And before we get to the root, to the sacral chakra, we have the root chakra, which is the lower part of ourselves, right? And so a lot of the work that we have to do is root work. It means deep work, deeper inner work to find out, like what I was discussing, what are my needs? That is not something that we could probably say on this interview. That's something you got to write out. That's something you have to meditate on. That's something you got to really, really go deep within self, because it's something that you haven't been acknowledging for a very long time. If you were, you would be doing something about it. Am I correct?
Yeah, you're 100% correct.
So a lot of times we ignore ourselves. I know it don't sound good. This is why we have a healing space that is intimate, where we hold space for one another to rise in our divine feminine, as well as women who look like us. Because this is conversation that we don't like to have. It feels very uncomfortable.
It does.
But this is the word. This is how we rise in our divine feminine power. When you say that to people, they're like, well, what is divine feminine power? Divine feminine power is standing on your sacredness, knowing your purpose, your God-given purpose of why you're here, and being in alignment with that, flourishing with it, flowing with it, sharing it within boundaries.
So you said something when we first talked. Mm-hmm. And it just struck my soul that most women don't have a self-care or self-love regimen. And I want to just throw this out there because I have this conversation with women, and you'll quickly get the retort, oh, I make my nail appointment every 2 weeks, or I get my hair done every 2 weeks, or I do this, that. Those are things that you do maybe because you enjoy. But most of us do those things because we want to have a specific appearance. This is our brand. This is who we've created. And it goes along with the mask that we wear every day. And I'm not saying people don't enjoy a massage. People don't enjoy a pedicure. I'm not saying that. but that's not what you're speaking of when you're talking about a
No, ma'am.
self-love and a self-care regimen. So it's much deeper than that. And again, you have to know what you need. So can you kind of speak to us about what that looks like? What do you mean when you say it's important for women to have a self-love and a self-care regimen that they do daily?
Well, again, this is no right or wrong. This is every woman, in my opinion, has to define and create a self-care regimen based on who they are. And if you don't know who you are, then that's going to be part of your work and your challenge to find out what your needs are, to even be able to fulfill your needs in a self-love and self-caring way, to even create a regimen.
Okay.
My regimen, my self-love and self-care regimen may not be your self-love and self-care regimen. That's why I have women coming in defining themselves, because what my needs are different from your needs. Now, we may have some similar needs because we are similar in a lot of ways, more ways than we are different. But
Okay.
each woman owes it to herself to define her own self-care and self-love regimen. That's that inner work. That's that self-reflection. That's that self-assessment. Now, I can tell you what my self-love and self-care regimen is, and what I feel like most women need to start at the ground level is making sure you know and you are responsible for things that make you happy, things
Okay.
that make you feel alive, things that make you thrive, things that make you smile, things that make you just be in your goddess flow. Those are the things that you're going to have to capture. For me, it's being out in nature. It is giving myself everything that I would want someone to give me, I give to myself. That way it keeps me from being needy, because I tell myself I love me. I have begun self-love and self-care practices that has enabled me to love me at a very high level. So when other people come into my space and my energy, they can do nothing but love me, or they will have to remove themselves from me, because we're not going to equal out. I'm going to be too much, or I'm not going to be enough. And that's fine. But I accept me. I love me. I vibrate on an energy that I desire. I create what I represent. It ain't about what the world is saying I should be. It ain't about what the world is saying I should look like. It ain't 24, 36, da-da-da-da. The world can't define my beauty. I define my own inner beauty, because beauty comes from within. And so that builds my confidence. So when I'm around different melanated women that may be just as powerful, we connect because I know my power and I respect her power. I'm not trying to judge or say or make her like me or change her or conform. No, I stand in my truth. And I always ask myself, what is truth for you?
Yes.
What is your truth, Ajay? Not what the world has told you is true, because the world can't define truth for me. The world can't define freedom for me. These are things that we, as melanated women, as the goddess of the world, as spiritual being, this is what we must define to ourselves. And that way, what nobody thinks about me, what nobody knows about me, how somebody may judge me, what somebody may say about me, it ain't my truth, so it's okay.
Okay.
Because they know me better than I know myself. I know. So you only know what you see. You're judging what you see. And a lot of times when we judge ourselves as women, we're judging us.
Yes. Say that again. Say that again, because I was going to speak on that. Yes.
You, because you ain't doing your work. So when somebody come in, who she thinks she is, and then it ain't about who I think I am, it's who I am.
And it's about who you see and what's your issue with it. Yes.
Right.
Yes.
Now
yes.
You have to find out who you are, because if you were studying on who you were, and I'm grounded on who I am, we would connect and we would be in synergy. We would not be in competition. We would not be in judgment. We would not be in envy. Those are low vibrational emotions when someone is not doing their work. I've
So
had to come to the truth about it. I'm not saying I ain't never been jealous of another Black woman. I ain't saying I ain't never been envious. I ain't saying I ain't never been judgmental. I've been all of those things when I was vibrating on a lower frequency, absolutely. But when I rise my vibration and I begin to seek out who I was and get standing on the truth of who God created me to be, when I come around Black women, I love them because they're a reflection of me. And even when one is vibrating at a lower vibration, because I'm doing my own self-healing and my own self-care regimen, I can help them come up. I no longer respond or react to them in a negative way because I don't have it in me because I used to be who she is.
okay.
I acknowledge.
Oh, I'm just so grateful for your knowledge this evening. It is very difficult for me to conduct this interview because I feel like I am just one of the people that's blessed enough to be here to listen. I'm just hanging on to every word, and I'm hoping that everyone else is hanging on to every word too. Sharon's put in the comments, save that, because you are telling so much truth. You're sharing so much wisdom. I had one of the young ladies that I knew was going to tune in tonight. She asked me a question that was unrelated, but was related. And she asked me, she said, so how do you keep your weight down? And I thought to myself, in my 20s, I would have answered, oh, well, I'm just vibrant and young. In my 30s, I would have said it was good genes. In my 40s, I would have said I'm working at it. But being in my 50s, I understand, and looking back, it's everything that you said. It's deciding that I was important. It's doing that self-work. It's having conversations and affirming me. It's having self-love routines. It's not having that negative talk and honing in on what I don't like, but creating positive images of not my 20-year-old body, but how I felt in that time, and being able to create that space. Because when you feel different about you, when you think different about you, when you're on what you call the higher vibration, you make different choices. It happens automatically. You make different choices. You become more disciplined because the goal is different. And you know that you're doing your work. And this is not to put yourself apart and make someone else wrong and you're right. But you're doing your work when you say, because we've all experienced jealousy, judgment, anger, frustration. We've all experienced all of those things. And we've all looked at a person and thought whatever we thought based on our experiences where we were, right? But you're healing when you get around that energy, and that energy is no longer acceptable to you. As you said, the vibe is different, and you either want to help that individual raise, or you realize that they're not ready and you remove yourself from it because you're connected and you're worried about your peace. Not worried about, but you're focused on your peace and your healing now. Yeah.
That's right.
Yeah. Okay.
And self-talk. And self-talk, negative self-talk is something that we all have had, and we have to challenge ourselves to reverse. Self-sabotage. Right?
Yes.
Self-criticism. These are the things we're working on as we're releasing this. Because when we're doing the vaginal steaming from an African healing perspective, and I just came back from Africa, it's about releasing. Women have to learn how to let go, not control.
Woo!
Let go.
You just stepped on my toes, because that was a big thing. That was a big thing for me. I had to control everything, but I realized that control was steeped in fear. So much fear, but learning to release that. Yeah, go ahead.
Letting it go. So part of the vaginal steam and the ceremony and the ritual that we do, The first hour that you're at sweet spot, you're not even doing anything but healing before I even sit you down on the scene, because we have to be very intentional about why we're doing a thing. This is how we waste a lot of time and energy, and we get depleted and tired and de-energized because we're spending a lot of time and energy on things that no longer serve or benefit.
Yes.
But we're doing them, and we're doing them awesome, because Black women are awesome. We master, just as well as we master goodness, we can master things that are not so good.
You're
We're
right.
just like that. So for me, what God has said, because y'all are masterful, you nourish, like the sister said, we're just natural nourishers. We're all natural healers. That's why I don't tell people, I'm not a healer. I'm not. I can only heal me. I can assist women. I can advise. I can guide. I can motivate. I can inspire. But I can't do your work, sis. That's between you and your sacredness. Now, once you acknowledge that, you be accountable for your work. This is a process. This is not a step 1 through 10. I don't coach that way. I give women the freedom. I open them up to know who they are and empower them to heal themselves. All of us need help with that because it's something that we haven't quite mastered yet. And so we have to take the necessary time to sit down and get still and find out, what is it that we want? What is it that we need? And how do we get it? How do we give it to ourselves first? And then what anything and everybody else gives is just extra.
Yes.
So if they take it away, if they no longer want to be connected, if they want to leave, they can. Because I'm whole. I'm not broken in pieces. I'm not needy, because we came here with everything we need.
Yes.
Everything. And I know it sounds far-fetched, and it did to me before I really got real serious about my healing journey. But now I know I have everything I came here equipped. That's how masterful we are. We come from a great creator. But the world starts taking away from us.
And we start believing it.
We allow it. And so that's where accountability comes in, because people only can do what you allow.
Yes.
That's what we have to be able to swallow, that truth pill right there. When people come to me and start venting and saying, this happened, I didn't get raised with my mom, my dad raped me, my uncle molested me. There's a lot of things that we have gone through as women. But we can no longer hold it because it blocks the flow. That's why healing is so necessary. And I'm not saying we haven't been through some traumatic things. Black women have been through more traumatic things than any other being on the planet, in my opinion.
Yeah, I agree.
But we cannot carry it. It's too heavy. So that is why the first assignment that I said with creating a self-care and self-love regimen and a routine is always being mindful and aware of what your needs are and making sure you're putting them first. And if you get into a place where you don't know, because we don't know, this we have to surrender to, because we have not been taught this. This is something Spirit has taught me, because I sat with my spirit and I said, I've got to find a better way. I know it's a better way. We are divine beings. Why are we suffering like this? Why are we diseased? Why do we have so much pain in our community? So much sickness, so much illness. Why? And you know what Spirit said to me?
What?
Carry yourself.
And it's just that simple. Yeah.
Carry yourself. I'll say it a third time. because we are not taking care of ourselves. We're taking care of everything else. I was a woman who took care of my car, my house. If you looked at me, I was suited and booted to the nine, but that don't mean I was well inside.
That's right. Say that again, because it's so many of us that are walking around the picture of perfection. You would think you had no problem in the world. We've learned how to not only mask the exterior to look perfect, but to mask the interior. There are so many of us that are broken, that again,
And that's okay.
That's
And
okay.
that's
It's okay to be broken, but it's also your responsibility and accountability to take back your power.
Yes.
So that you can begin to heal, so that you can live a life beyond the hurt and the trauma that you carry. Live a life beyond having to be everything to everybody. Live a life where you feel depleted all the time. And a lot of women can't articulate it because, again, it's just ingrained. As you said, we have to unlearn it. It has to be unprogrammed or deprogrammed from us. Because, I mean, when you were talking, I'm thinking all the way back to our great grandmothers that were, you know, taking care of everybody's babies, theirs and everybody else's. And you were expected to do that, right? And we still are the breast for the world. We still are. And we
get frowned upon when we don't do it.
When we don't do it. Everyone else is allowed to say, I need help. It's almost expected, but we're not. We're not. We're not.
And that's why it is so very important that we give that space to ourselves.
Yes. And we have to demand it.
They don't afford us the privilege of healing.
Yes.
Why I'm so passionate about creating a space for Black women to heal, because everybody talks about the unhealed Black women. Oh, we this and we that, and we're all kind of derogatory names. But why isn't that same energy going to repair?
Right.
To heal? Then that just makes me know you want me this way.
Right.
This is very important
that way.
Not to be, for me to be sick. So that is why I go against the grain and push so much for me, myself, to be healing. I didn't say healed. There is no such thing, in my opinion, as healed ED, because there has been a lot of trauma against us and we're behind in our healing. So now we just have to take it one day at a time. Whatever it is that requires you to heal, forget unforgiveness, trust, loyalty, authenticity, genuineness, kindness, compassion, passion, surrender, freedom, liberation, self-love, self-care, strength. But what I tell women, we can't always be strong. And if you ever come to Sweet Spot, we deal with different sweet spot sisters. We have 8 of them that we at all the time, because we have been raised to put on that strong veil all the time. We have. A lot of Black women have been taught how to be strong. Yeah. That's the only way they know how to show up.
That's it.
But when I got like 40, maybe 38, 39, I really started going through my transformation. I don't want to be strong anymore. I've been strong.
Okay.
It's not working. I want to be strong. Ajay, where are your weaknesses at? If you came up to me and asked me that exercise, I would have been hesitant, because I see myself as being strong all the time, that I was not aware of my vulnerabilities, which means I was out of balance.
Yes.
Yeah, be strong all the time. I don't care who you are, who made you, and how much your mama was strong. It don't matter. Everyone has weaknesses.
Everyone
thinks they need to. Everyone. So when I began to acknowledge that and not be ashamed of it, but embrace it, I began to heal and rise.
Yes.
Now
Yes.
I'm no ashamed that I was a controller. I'm a controller. My
Yes.
hand stays high.
Yes.
My kids, mom, yep.
And to remove that stigma of
Yes.
having to be all of those things, just taking that suit of armor off is so freeing. But to be able to continue to peel those layers off and realize the world will continue to go on, and you can also have a safe space in the world. That was so liberating to me. Like, it was
Yes.
just unbelievable. So I'll say this: we usually do for an hour, but the conversation has been so amazing. What I want to make sure of is a couple of things.
Yes.
First, I'd like for you to tell everyone exactly where you're located so they can find out how to get to you. And then immediately after that, if you could walk us through a day. So when you're coming in for your service, what happens? What's step 1, step 2, step 3, step 4? And then last but not least, I want you to tell us some uses, like the vaginal steaming. What can it heal in your body? We talked about how the sickness or the disease shows up. What can it actually heal? What physical ailments can it heal in your body? And when should a woman do it? So where can we find you? Step 1, step 2, step 3, step 4 of a service. And what can it heal?
Okay. Well, what was the first question?
Where are you located?
Oh, I am in downtown Atlanta, one of the last Black cultural spaces in Atlanta, in my opinion, the West End, which is over Spelman, Morehouse, Clark, over in that area. 675 Metropolitan Parkway. We're in a loft environment where people have taken creative space and just made it into something phenomenal. And we're one of those spaces. It's 5,000 square feet of space. And I was able to be guided by spirit to turn it into a wellness studio. There for my people to be supported, mind, body, and soul, whatever that looks like at any given day. It's not a set thing because healing is not set. So there's a lot of things that go on in this space. We have a community space, a rental space, which is Heal Space Atlanta. That's 3,000 square feet. We've had many workshops. We've had many authors. We've had yoga class. We've had meditational classes. We've had African dance. Anything that can get my people's spirit lifted.
Okay.
All part of healing. The other 2,500 square feet is Sweet Spot Atlanta, which is where we do the wellness services at. And we started off in 2014. This will be our 8th year. With just doing the primary vaginal steaming and educating women about the importance of holistic womb wellness. Okay. And then we added foot detox. We had a colonic machine for you to get your colon cleansed. We have different types of saunas to help people sweat and release toxicity, because sweating is the natural process of detoxification.
Okay.
The problem, Black people are not sweating enough. That's why we're keeping and holding on. Then what we've been talking about is a lot of emotional toxicity, but we hold on to mental toxicity, mind. We hold on to spiritual toxicity with the soul not being nourished. We hold on to physical toxicity, which comes out into physical disease. And so these are the different elements that we're focusing on when we talk about getting sweet toxified. Okay. What I'm able to be blessed to do by assignment of the Most High is turning what we do to intoxicate and be sick and be not well, and reverse that mindset to embrace detoxification and wellness. So basically, we have a wellness bar. We had a breathing, almost like a hookah bar, where you're coming in and you're breathing essential oils to get your body oxygenated, getting your blood oxygenated, so your detoxification process can happen.
Okay.
That's step one when you come in. After you check in with me, I'm always going to check energy at the door because I'm an empath and I want to make sure before we come into a sister circle, which is what we're doing here virtually, that everybody is pretty much on the same page. Because if there's one person that's out of alignment when we're doing a sacred ceremony, it's going to break the divine feminine power.
Okay. Okay.
For the first 30 minutes, we just in here talking like how we're all talking right now. And it's a lot of things that a lot of women come in with. You can't wear shoes in the building. Of
Okay.
course, doing something very sacred. So you have to take your shoes off. We provide footies for women to make sure we close up the pores because we're getting ready to open up our most important portal, which is the womb. We check in. Of course, as a coach, I check in on everybody, see what their needs are, get them to be open, mind, body, and soul, so we can be able to release and relax and let go. And then we go into our breathing technique, which is our first step in our process of preparing. And then you're going to do your own self abdominal tummy massage where we give you essential oils. You have a full body sauna cake on. This is something that had been done in the African culture for centuries. This is not anything new. It's new to the West.
Okay.
If we were reared and raised in our African culture, when we went through our rites of passage ceremony, we would have already been vaginal steaming.
Okay.
It's the way our elders would welcome us into proper sacred womanhood.
Okay.
This is why we don't know our bodies from a sacred perspective, but
Okay.
do an abdominal massage so we can stimulate the liver and the colon and the kidneys and all of the things that's sitting heavy on the womb. We want to get them activated so they can release the toxins, the bad bacteria, and the impurities.
Okay.
And then you're going to be hydrating with tea, herbal tea, to help start the detoxification process internally. And
Okay.
then as a wiser woman, 25 and older, you'll be sitting on the steam for 60 minutes. Why? Because of everything that we've been talking about within over this hour. We are heavy in the womb area when we come in. We're heavy in the mind. We're heavy in the soul because this is something that we don't practice. So a woman 25 and older is going to take about 15 to 20 minutes when you start doing this practice to even start sweating.
Oh, wow. Okay.
That's sitting longer. Now, when I do my younger queens, 18 to 24, they haven't had babies. Emotionally, they may not be where we are. Mentally, they may not be. It's not guaranteed because a lot of younger women have heavy loads as well. So it all depends on really your lifestyle. It's
Okay.
how you determine what package you get, whether it's the 30-minute simple and sweet session or it's the sweet elite session, which is the 60 minutes sitting on the steam.
Okay.
And you'll be sitting on the steam, picking your sweet spot, sisters. We have all type of exercises in the first hour that you're there before you even sit down on the steam, which is why there's crying, there's screaming, there's a lot of different things emotionally that women go through before they sit on the pot. And so that's why we have an intimate space where we only do up to 6 to 12 women a day.
Okay, and I want you guys to hear that because this is not just a spa treatment like a massage. There's a lot of sacred work that goes into this process. As she said initially, the actual steaming is a small part of the process. There's a lot of opportunity to release and heal. So it's not just going to one of these other spas around here that everybody was going to because it was popular to do. This is not about just going to the JJ steam with your girlfriends and then having brunch. That's not what we're doing here.
No, it is not.
Okay.
And so, like I was saying, I've seen many different things happen in these almost 8 years and almost doing over 8,000 women.
Wow.
That happened spiritually. That's why I'm glad Sister LaDawn brought that up, because when spirit shows up, you don't know how that's going to look.
Exactly.
So how you represent yourself to the world. But when we take the veil and the mask and the makeup and the hair and all of that and get down to our divine self, that's a different person.
That's the real person. Yes. That you haven't faced in a long time. Yeah.
And very, it's something to see. It's something to see. But what I love is that God has given me the gift to get women to shift. Yeah. Because if you're in your physicalness, them herbs is not going to do anything for you.
Okay.
Because
so
you haven't.
As you said, you have to come on purpose. You have to come with the intention to heal.
Yeah.
This is something that you have to want. You can't come with the veil on and expect an outcome.
Spirit gonna call you higher anyway.
Yeah. Okay.
Either you have to leave because everybody else has transformed into spirit, and you're gonna be uncomfortable because you're still showing up in the physical.
Gotcha.
You still got your mask on, and you're gonna be called out because everybody's there mostly have spiritually transformed. You're going through a spiritual transformation. You have to be transparent with yourself during the time. You have to be very intentional, which is why as a coach, I give a lot of exercises during the hour to help you be transparent. Because I know as a Black woman, it's very, very challenging for us to show up transparent around other women who look like us.
That's right. That's right. Because we don't want to be judged. We don't want to appear as weak. All the things that we deal with on a regular basis. So I was asked if I was going to put your info up. I'm definitely going to put it up in the description above the video so people will know how to get in contact with you, how to schedule. So a lot of people in the chat have said it sounds very amazing that they want to come. And again, she says she only does about 6 people a day. So this is not, I just wake up on Wednesday and decide that I want to do it because she may already have her 6, because it is a high energy process and it takes a lot out of her as the coach. Mm-hmm. So she comes fully prepared to be able to guide you. So it's not a steaming factory. That's not what we're doing there. What are the 8 sweet spots?
We are just by appointment only.
Correct, by appointment only.
But you have to go on the website and select the appropriate package for your lifestyle, right? Okay. By your age group. And then you reserve with your deposit because we want to keep everybody accountable for time, energy, and effort.
That's right.
And pay your balance when you come into the session. You can add your colonic, you can add your foot detox, you can add the other saunas. We have a yoni sauna just from the waist down, from a lot of women who have stagnation, fibroids, and hysterectomy, different things going on from the waist down. And then we have a full body sauna that you can get in before you steam. We want people to detoxify. So I'm there to help you open up so you can purge. Because remember, the soul cleanse more so than it is a physical cleanse.
That's right. That's right. Okay. And I want to ask, what are the 8 spots you mentioned before? And then what things that women deal with physically that we go to the doctor for and self-diagnose and they just give us medicine for? What things can this vaginal steam and this process help to heal?
Well, the first thing I would say is it balances the pH.
Okay.
It balances the hormones and it balances the estrogen levels.
Okay.
So as melanated women, if we can keep those 3 things balanced, we're ageless.
Okay.
We're ageless.
Say those 3 things again for me.
pH balancing, hormonal balancing, and estrogen level balancing. Okay. And so that's what it's going to do for any woman, whether how old, how young. The other thing is if you're having any imbalances, we've seen great results with fibroids. Great results, a lot of data with that. But of course, in holistic health and wellness, you cannot say you are healing anything.
Right.
That is what I stay away from. I am not healing. I can't guarantee anything. I'm just telling you what results we have had, right? A lot of infertility. A lot of Black women are starting to experience infertility. And so they've been being told that they won't have children due to PCOS, or how big their fibroids are, or because they had so many abortions or things like that. We've been able to reverse that. We've had some reverse
Wow.
thoughts in that. A
Okay.
lot, menopause is something that a lot of women come for because of the hot flashes, the dryness, the incontinence, the discomforting sex, no sex drive. So that's a big thing. That balances, that goes with the pH, the hormone, and the estrogen level balance. What I named first. Fibromyalgia is another thing that women have. Endometriosis, we've had some great results. Lupus,
Wow.
okay, MS, because of the hydrotherapy of the steam is going in through your most absorbent tissues on your entire body, which is your vaginal tissues. That's why we're so sensitive in our vaginal area, because that's where a lot of your nerve endings are in your vaginal area. When they become desensitized, it affects your hormonal balance as well as your sex drive. And so we have to balance is things that we're doing and participating in that's getting your body out of balance. And so the hydrotherapy and the medicinal benefits of the herbs, just like you drink tea, but when you drink herbal tea, it has to go through your digestive tract.
Okay.
When you're sitting over top of herbs, it doesn't have to go through anything. It doesn't have to process through anything. It's going straight into the bloodstream. Once the medicinals of the herbs get into the blood, they attack the toxins. They attack the impurities, and they attack the bad bacteria, and you're steaming them out of your pores.
Wow. Okay. Okay.
So that's what makes this a full body detox. It's going to tighten the womb. It's going to tone the vaginal walls. It's going to put the womb back to a virgin state, right? Because it's being cleansed internally, as well as your other organs, because the herbs is going up through all the chakras, the root chakra, the sacral chakra, the solar plex chakra, which is your spleen, your kidney, gut, your colon, your liver, your heart chakra, which we've been on the phone a lot about tonight. Our hearts as women are very heavy. I'll say that again. Our hearts, your womb is your second heart, and she's your second brain. Our hearts are heavy with emotional imbalance. Your throat chakra, which is your thyroid and your thalamus, which is why a lot of women, such as myself, had hypothyroidism, hyperthyroidism. That's very prevalent in the Black community. And then you have your third eye chakra, which is your pineal gland, that has become calcified due to our diet. A lot of dairy, a lot of sugar. So we have to go in and decalcify this. This is why we're not awakened. That's where that comes from. And then you got your crown chakra, which is your brain. Migraines, headaches, that kind of thing is when there's blockage in the crown chakra. Sinus problems, a lot of bronchial things, that's upper head with your third eye and your crown chakra. So this is how our body begins to be imbalanced, because our chakras is not, our energy is not flowing properly through the body, because we have blockages, which we talked about earlier.
Right.
Is going in to remove those blockages wherever they are in the body, and allowing the energy to flow throughout the body, which causes high vibration, happiness.
There you go.
Feel good.
There you go. There
It
you
removes
go.
stress and depression and all the things that's burdening you and weighing down, because you're releasing the things that are blocking you. Mood swings. A lot of women have mood swings. It's not just normal to have mood swings. There's an imbalance happening, right? And so these are the things. Know that whenever you have any kind of disharmony in your body, it is a message that your body's saying, please fix it.
That's right. That's right. So I have a couple questions. Is this a process? Is it a one-time spiritual event, or is it a process? And can you take a family group together? Leanne says she would love to bring her daughters.
Yes, we have mothers bring daughters and we have daughters bring mothers.
Okay.
No, this is not a one-time be all end all. This is a practice. We should have already been doing this. Had we been doing it, we would be very much better off right
Yes.
now.
Yes. And that was a question I asked. How often should a woman do this? And
It should 3 to 5 days after every menstrual cycle, if you are having a menstrual cycle. If you're not having a menstrual cycle, you can come whenever. The only times you can't steam, because this is all natural, wild, organic, crafted herbs, is if you're pregnant, you think you're pregnant, or you have an IUD. If you have an IUD, you can't steam because the power of the hydrotherapy of the heat will move or shift.
oh
what
wow.
you knocking or doing whatever you want to do. You got to decide to get that out and maybe go natural.
Oh,
Women,
okay.
those types of things with birth control, because we are not controlling our cycle and our urges in sex. It's not for the womb to have sex whenever the man want to have sex. That is why it runs on a cycle just like the moon. So there's times that you would have sex and there's times that you don't have sex. This is what we would have learned through our rites of passage when our elders would have taught us how to deal with our bodies from a sacred perspective. Sex is not physical, it's spiritual.
That's right.
This is why a lot of women are not orgasmic.
This is why a lot of women are not orgasmic.
Yes.
A lot of women cannot reach orgasm, and you just said something that I'm sure a lot of women have not heard, because most of us process sex as a physical act and not a spiritual act.
Yes, ma'am.
And if you're not in tune, aligned, you can't reach a physical climax.
No, ma'am.
All right. Well, all righty. So you've given us a lot this evening. So we can find you, and I am going to post your link, all of your information up in the description above the video. So everyone will know how to reach out to you to schedule appointments. You can come by yourself. You can come with friends in a group. Daughters can bring mothers, mothers can bring daughters. And it's a holistic healing process, not just a simple, I'm going to get my pedicure, my vaginal steam, and my nails done today. That's not what we are doing. I wanted to do this topic, and as my life is going these days, what I desire with expectation manifests, and Ajay manifested. And you have been so informative, so powerful, so loving in your responses, and so thoughtful in your responses. I can only imagine what the actual process is like and how healing it can be if you come intentional, if you come on purpose, if you come ready to do your work, if you are committed to your healing, and it not being a one-time process that you can say you've done, and add on all the other services that you talked about as well that can contribute to your healing. I thank you so much for agreeing to do this. And I have 132 million more questions based on what you said tonight. So I will definitely have to have you back, hands down, because you have been absolutely wonderful.
And it cannot be, it's just an overview, but it's heavy. It is heavy. Why we have to consistently do it as a practice, because it is a lot. But that's why we take a piece at a time, We're not trying to rush through. Healing is not something that can be rushed. And what I want to leave the listeners with tonight is, when you go away from this call, and this is what will hold you accountable, is how is it that your nails and your hair and your toes and your outfit and your car and your house, all the many things that we've been taught to keep up, but we don't keep up our wombs in the same way. That's already out. spiritual alignment right there, right there. Because remember, when we started this conversation, we said the womb is the original source of all life. So how is so much of life outside of the womb being put more attention to, but the womb doesn't get as much attention? So when women come in and they ask me, how many steams am I going to have? That's not a question you should ask. Loving your womb. This is your womb space. This is your core. And you're saying, you don't say how many times you need to get your nails done.
Right.
Times you need to go get your lashes or your eyebrows or your hair or your toes or bikini wax and all the many external beautification that we do. Why wouldn't you want to beautify your womb? Why is there a number assigned to that? That's already got something to do with your self-worth and your self-value.
Correct. Because you make time for what's important and you prioritize your health. But a lot of us are not, we don't prioritize ourselves. We don't know what we need. So we have no way of even thinking about our womb in that capacity because nobody sees our womb. It's so many women walking around with bacteria, vaginosis, fibroids, all kinds of stuff because nobody sees that. So you don't have to take care of that. But I see your outer appearance. So yes, thank you for pointing that out. Thank you for pointing that out. And I just want to say thank you to Jennifer, Tamikis, Bridget, phenomenal. She said phenomenal. Yes, we need a part 2, Ajay. So they're even asking for you to come back. Sharon said, thank you, LaDon. Natasha, spiritual peace is attainable. Dawnette says she learned a lot. This was very informative, said Natasha. So the body is our temple. I can go on and on and on. So you have been a wealth of knowledge this evening, and we definitely will have you back. This was just the tip of the iceberg. Just the tip of the iceberg.
To everyone, thank you. It is spiritual wisdom.
Yes.
Spiritual wisdom, but I thank you. And I thank you for having me. I thank you for thinking of me. I thank Spirit for driving our energies to connect.
That's for sure.
I'm humbled and I'm grateful. Thank you.
Yes, yes, yes. As I said, we're going to have you come back again. And I appreciate all of the truth seekers that took time out of your schedule to just tune in tonight and to stay extra time with us tonight. No one left because the information was so good, Ajay. So I appreciate that. Again, just want to send a special thanks out to Ajay for coming and for the truth seekers sitting in to listen. And as always, until next time, everyone, remember to lead with love and to live in your truth. And Ajay is providing a way for us to discover our truth, heal that truth, and to be able to live in it authentically. Okay? Yes. Thank you so much. Yes. Yes. Thank you. And everybody have a good evening.
Have a good night.
I'll see you next week.
All right.
Bye-bye.
Ooh, Spirit.